southeastern coast here. And so I'm not saying that's a good enough reason to do what he did, but I'm saying that was essentially true, that America had, almost like it was a British colony, just had total sock puppets in charge of that country. In fact, there's a clip that I quote extensively. It's one of the only block quotes in my book because I got rid of almost all of them for space. But I think I have the block quote of Victoria Nuland testifying. That's Robert Kagan's wife, very important neoconservative, worked in Dick Cheney's office in the W. Bush years and everything, helped cause all of this problem. And she goes on and on describing the level of, what can you call that, infiltration, essentially, of the Ukrainian government by the United States. That she says, we have our people, State Department people, and who are working at every level of the Ukrainian government, throughout their police services, throughout their military, throughout their judicial branch, throughout, and out in the provinces and everywhere. We're doing everything we can to control everything that's going on in that country. And, the WikiLeaks are very beneficial on this story because they show where the Americans understand clearly, and by the Americans I mean Washington, the State Department, whatever, these guys, that they know good and well that Ukraine is deeply divided, especially politically, on questions like whether they should join the NATO alliance or whether they'd rather be closer to Russia or try to split the difference and stay out of it or anything like that. And so they say, well, so we just have to push then. We'll just have to spend tens of millions of dollars on massive propaganda campaigns, and we'll just have to make sure to support the candidates that support us and our wishes. And essentially, it's America. The book is called, sorry, I keep mentioning the book, but it's how Washington started the new Cold War with Russia and the catastrophe in Ukraine. I'm not blaming it on Kiev. I'm blaming it on essentially Bush Sr. through Joe Biden, that all of them had such a ham-handed Russia policy that it led to this.
It's just fascinating that this perspective is not being discussed or wasn't being discussed when it was in the news every day. When people were talking about Russia and Ukraine, it was always that Russia had done this horrible thing and attacked Ukraine, which was horrible.
Of course.
But no one gave any background. No one really talked about and made the comparison to imagine if the Soviet Union, or Russia rather, took over Canada. Right. Or was proxying Canada.
Yeah, exactly. Or if they went back at all, they would go, well, this all started when Russia seized Crimea. Right. But of course, they seized Crimea as a direct reaction to America overthrowing the government and the so-called Revolution of Dignity in February 2014. And so then it's a complicated mess. But Crimea happened after that. But they just want to start history at places where it's the most convenient for them.
And there's also